Friends, how are you today? Welcome to Mark Talk. I am your host, Mark Levy, and I'm so unbelievably excited to be here for you guys today. A little bit earlier than usual, but that is because we're having fun today. We're having a good, fun episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the one that we had on Monday with the team behind Lip Sync Assassin. Thank you, Elise Navidad and Logan. Today, we're continuing that with spotlighting games that I really, really love and adore. This is a game I've actually played twice. And it's one of the more unique games out there. It's called Injury, and we'll talk about it for about the next 45 minutes or so. I'll bring in the host and creator, Stark. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, dude. And also Brandy, who is also frequently in production and has played the game a couple times. So. How are y'all today?
Good.
Great. It's 5 a.m. for me, so it's just getting started.
Day's getting started. Like, you might as well wake up and do a podcast and a YouTube show, and then get the day started. Yeah. I'm so happy to have you guys on. I mean, you've been two of my more consistently great friends in this community since July. Wow, that's insane. I've known you all about 7 months now. Jeez. Woo. But I'm so happy to be able to talk about Injury. Let's talk about how much. I guess we'll get fully spoilery with the game, since it seems like you don't hide the secret anymore of what Injury is.
Yeah, the first game, it was totally hidden. I came up with this concept that actually, shout out to Marcelo, because he's the one that actually inspired the concept that I took and created into a game. So I created Injury and just put it out there. I created a game, who wants to play? I had people sign up, and I didn't tell anybody what was going on. And they showed up. I kind of did my tangent about this game is unlike anything you ever played before. You're gonna have to think about the same twists differently and have fun and go. And they all voted the first round, thinking that they were voting somebody out. And then I said, just kidding, you didn't vote anybody out, you just voted somebody directly into the jury phase. And everybody's head basically exploded, because they thought the person that they had just voted for intended to be voted out. And so that was the only game where I knew that I could get away with that, because while I don't advertise specifically what it is, there are a lot of people that go in blind. I know that people have friends and people will talk, and I'm totally fine with that. I just know that I can't get away with that twist anymore.
I mean, my game, which is the second one, that concept is still sort of in play, but I think 3 or 4 of us had watched the first game. I remember when I started watching the first game, it was right when Ali was getting voted out. I like that format better personally. Oh, what I just did there, because I was out. I'm I can only see with my fingers. And it was just mind blowing being at Discord watching Ali go from oh okay. And then seeing everyone being what?
Yeah, I think it was my third game that I had somebody play who got voted in to the jury first, but they didn't have a full understanding of what the concept was either, and they thought that they had been voted out of the game. They were the first member of the actual jury, but they had to just they thought the jury started first round. So
some games that do that where the jury, everyone makes a jury.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's 2 phases. The first phase, you vote somebody into the jury, and then you vote people out to create the jury.
And Brandy, you've been part of the game since day one too. What was your experience? Because you normally do tabulation and are the right hand person for Stark during the game. What was it like for you to experience the audience, the cast's experience of seeing how the game was?
So I did get to know the little secret beforehand, which was fun. I was not actually supposed to be production, but getting to see the just look of confusion on everyone's face, knowing it was coming, was so much fun. And there's been a couple of other twists that Stark has kind of keyed me in on beforehand. So, be watching the cameras. it's been really fun to just kind of watch the different casts get used to it. And like Stark said, it's not a secret anymore. Everyone knows that part. But it's always still such a shock to everyone how different it is playing to advocate for yourself to get into jury as opposed to advocating people out.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm
it's
usually
also,
but I'm giggling the whole time.
yeah. It's always fascinating when people get to the jury. Like when I played the game, I had two very different experiences. First time I played, I kind of accidentally got into the jury around 2 because you used to have the no tie twist, and 2 people got 5 votes, and I got 2, and I was the highest person that was not in the 5. And then I had no. I remember when it got to the second part, where it involves the pre-jury, I had like people were like not respecting my game because they're like, you didn't get into the jury by like whatever. So when I played the game the second time, I played harder and I thought smarter, and then I did get into the jury.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because in like the normal games, you just have to make sure you're not last, right? Like
Yeah.
anybody but me. And in injury, you really have to try and find a strategic way to say you should prioritize me over yourself, and this is how it may benefit you, right? And yeah, Mark, your first game was one of the reasons that I kind of started playing with the tie format, because I didn't think that it was fair for people to discount your game just because of how you got into the jury phase. Because I felt like there were people that were focused very much on that and not on the other moves that you had made when you got into the jury phase.
Yeah.
And so now it's there's a different format for breaking ties where if you're in the tie, you at least still have a shot. Because I didn't want anybody's game to be discounted. There have been things that I've tried, realized that they weren't great. Trevor in the first game, his game got messed up because of a twist that I used. And so I immediately changed that because I didn't like that his game suffered. Like I truly want injury to be like a fun experience for everybody. And if somebody's game suffers because of a twist that I came up with or like a format that didn't really work, like I always feel really bad, and I always want that person to be able to come back and like have a second chance.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite things about you as a person and as a game player is you have a really strong strategic mind. And I think that injury is one of the more complicated in a way that you can grasp ways of a game. Like like what you said, like you are voting people into the jury, and like what was the impetus for that? Like, I mean, I imagine it was to make sure that people like go normally pre-jury have like 8 rounds to play a game, and now like their night is done in 30 minutes. But it could be something else. Like was that the reason why I decided to create the game the way it is?
Well, so no, like I said, I wish I could remember the game that I was playing. Let me see if I can find out my notes. But I was playing a game with Marcelo, and the we were like 2 or 3 rounds in, and the people that had been voted out were doing something, and I think it was the snake game that Cassie runs.
Where we were the final 2, baby.
Yep. So the people that had been voted out early were in like some like meeting with Cassie in like a different room, and Marcelo made the comment like, what if we just voted like them into like the final 3 and we're all actually the jury, and that's the big twist, right? And everybody kind of had a chuckle about it because it was a funny concept, but like that is what really got me thinking like, well, what if you don't vote people out? Like, how would that affect like everybody's game? Like, what if you weren't actively voting people out of the game? You were voting people to advance to essentially the second phase of the game. And then yes, like it was just the added benefit that people aren't getting mentally prepared to like spend 4 or 5 hours in a game, and then they're only there for like 40 minutes. and they're out in the first round. Because as somebody who's been first boot a couple times, like Brandy has been first boot a couple times, like that's always really frustrating. And I have also gotten the feedback that being stuck in a game, being forced to play for like 7 or 8 rounds when you know you have no longevity, like that is also frustrating. But I think that just like you sign up for a game and you could be first out, like you could go into a game and halfway through realize that you don't necessarily, you aren't really necessarily standing a shot, right?
I have been there. Like, yeah.
So it is one of the downfalls of the game, but I really like that you've got 14, 16 people that are all showing up that are all going to hopefully have at least some sort of positive experience of being able to play at least for several hours.
And the current winner loves this game, and I love watching him play. He's always a fun ally, and he was incredible that game too. He's always incredible. Like what I love about Injury is like I tend to try to watch as many of the games as I can. I know you keep the audience to be very small or alums only, pretty much, and I respect the hell out of that because it's not necessarily for the audience every game. It's for the players to play.
Yeah, and that was something that I kind of, first of all, I just struggle with technology, like streaming things like this whole like StreamYard to YouTube, like that is cool. I don't know how that works. Like technology just like makes my head hurt sometimes. And so there was a game that I had played, which I don't think it was Snake. I think Snake happened after the first Injury game. But there was another game that I played on Discord. And I was like, I really like the format of Discord. I like that there's no lag between changing rooms. I like that you can create group chats in Discord with the players as opposed to like Zoom where it's just direct messaging. And if you accidentally message the wrong person, like that's just unfortunate for you. And so I kind of like knew that you could stream from Zoom, but I didn't know how you could do it from Discord, and I wasn't really worried about like trying to figure out how to do that, especially in the first game. I was like, this is small, like this may be a terrible format and everybody hates it and it's going to be a one and done game, which I went in knowing. I was like, that was fine. But yeah, I like all the games that have the production to like monitor the chat and keep the chat clean, and like the audience members that respect that everybody's playing a game and there have a great time, like that's great. I just want the players to have a good positive experience, and I have found that sometimes chat and audience members kind of taint that experience and make it a little more negative, whether it's because people are critical or people start making personal attacks because they don't like a game move that was made. And so, yeah, I just kind of kept it as like alum. Sometimes, like if you've got a friend that wants to watch, like you like we'll do that. I may or may not be streaming this next game. This next game I am going to do it in Zoom, just because there were a couple of players that weren't really comfortable using Discord, which is fine. We've had technical difficulties. Joseph, our season 3 winner, actually won Injury, but he was not able to see anybody's cameras the entire game. Like it was literally just constant buffering for everybody else's camera. So he won a social strategy game, not being able to see anybody. So like kudos to him, right? And shout out to Jocelyn because he won that game with her. But yeah, so I'm gonna try streaming it. I've got to figure out if there's a way that I can control the chat. If I can just turn it off, I will 100% just do that. Just because I am more worried about the player's experience than like the audience being able to watch. And if the audience just can't watch, if I just can't make that happen, then I'm sorry that the audience won't be able to watch. You guys can hear about it afterward, or you can sign up to play and experience it yourself. That's just how I look at it because I want the players to have a good time.
And what's really fun to see about like an injury game is like every injury game is very, very different. Like that like secret duo game that you had was really fun. Where like I was watching it and my brain was just like, is everyone in a duo? And then like I realized halfway in, oh no, everyone's in a duo. But they don't know everyone's in a duo. And that was gorgeous. Like I love that. Like because like I know that like Brandy, I know you're a big game theory person. Like
Oh.
how's that type of stuff like pick your make your game theory brain like excited?
It does. Unfortunately, when it gets into these kind of games, there's too many options, so I can't really nerd out and map it out on a full game theory tree. But throwing in this sudden twist of, hey, there's a pair somewhere amongst you, and if that pair makes it to final two, they win. It completely changes your gameplay, which in part is what Santi does with Dark Horse.
Yeah.
But they throw in a switch where everyone's in a pair. And half the people had it figured out by the end of the game anyways. The little individual chats, I was trying to be like, no, Stark wouldn't do that. Yes, he did.
Yeah, I remember I texted you during the game. I was like, "Are they all in a pair?" And you're like, "Rrr." And I'm like, I'm not playing, I'm watching. I can tell something's up.
But now you're
So-
trying to make joint choices with a partner that you may or may not get a chance to talk to, and it just adds this whole nother element.
Yeah, that twist actually stemmed from laziness, to be totally honest. Because what happened was, so the injury 3 was the largest casting pool that I had. And like most of the people I knew, and I was excited. I was like, oh, I want them to play, but I also want them to play. And like casting is hard. Like if you don't have to cast a game and like tell people no, like that's hard because you want to give everybody a chance to play. You want to make room for everybody, right? So I basically cast 6, 7 people. I cast 7 or 8 people. I was like, these are the 7 or 8 people that I absolutely want to play. And then I messaged each one of those people and said, hey, the wheel chose you. You are half of the pair. You get to pick your partner. And here's the entire list of applicants. So you need to pick who you want to play with. And so I only cast half of the people, and I made the rest of the cast pick the other half of the players because then I could say, well, it wasn't my fault. And then I didn't message everybody at the same time. I messaged them one-on-one because then if like my first person that I wanted to cast picked my fourth person that I wanted to cast, and that made room for somebody else.
Yeah. Like I want to talk about because I have a question because your brain is so amazing when it comes to these it's like twists.
Thanks.
Has there been anything that you came up with that you're like this is too diabolical or too hard to pull off?
I mean, I honestly didn't know if I was going to do the round 1 for game 1 twist. I didn't know if I was going to go. Originally, I planned to go in and tell everybody like this is the format, but then the night before, I was like, this is evil. Like I'm making people vote somebody out that is going to stick around for the rest of the game. That's going to know that everybody voted them out. And then they're going to stay in the game and continue to play.
I mean, Ali Kosan is the only person in injury that was voted out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. And so, but I was like, it's such a fun like curveball at the beginning of the game. And Lauren had actually joked before the game even started, like, oh, what if it's a play on words? Like you want to get in the jury. And I didn't say anything, but then as soon as I made that announcement, Lauren was like, I called it, like I knew it.
Yeah.
But I think logistically, the second chance game that I played was trying to find a twist that I could use to encourage people to press that button to get my winners back in the game. That was what I had to try and figure out, like how can I incorporate something that is going to entice the active players 2 rounds into the game to press a magical, mysterious button that will release havoc into the game and be willing to do that. And so then I started talking with production, and we came up with like the draft pick concept. And we did it that way. So that was a lot of fun.
And I don't know if I'll let the audience know this. Like, so we were all drafted by people that were moderators in the game, and they would give us intel on what was happening. Dylan Taylor, who's like one of my favorite people in this community, was my moderator for that, and like he gave like really amazing like feedback. Like, people want to vote Katie in. They don't know about this person. Some people were saying Robin. It was like really fascinating. And then like when you're like, hey, if you press this, if you say do this, then they go away. And I'm like, someone's gonna do it for sure, so I have to make sure I am quick, so I can like do something. And I was like, I was the last one to pick, I believe. So, but it was so fascinating being like, oh, crap, okay. There's now more people that compete against that have won the game.
Yeah, and it, I mean, it was definitely like like this would be fun, and the mod draft was kind of like a 48-hour twist, like backup that we came up with. So we didn't have like super detailed directions as to like what the mods were giving for like clues and feedback and stuff. So like some mods were giving a little bit more than other mods were. But we are going to have a season that is going to utilize that format for the first half of the game, and there will be no button. As of right now, there will be no button that brings winners back into the game. But yeah, we're gonna utilize the mods in a way that I don't think other games have used mods before, where they're passing trade secrets and players now have to think about what room are they in, like, is this mod on their side, like, should they be having these conversations, or like what should or shouldn't they be saying, because it could get back to the players.
I mean, the walls have ears, you know.
Yeah.
What is? I'm gonna ask both of y'all, since you both have seen every round of this game. I believe Brandy has been involved in every game, right?
I played one game, and I did have to step back the last game that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay. Since you guys have a lot of knowledge about the game, what are your favorite twists and least favorite twists in the game?
Brandy, you want to go first?
Well, from the voting perspective, like actually calling the votes and such, is the pre-jury rankings. Being able to kind of have that behind-the-scenes look at how the pre-jury is thinking and which ones are bitter. They're all bitter, just so you guys know. So that part is.
I was ready to give everyone ones except for Katie, because
I was gonna say somebody definitely asked the last game if I have to rank them.
That was me. I was fucking furious.
So that's fun just to watch and kind of see play out, and I think it also adds a different aspect of pre-jury play for the people who've already made it into the jury. Like, you don't just have to manage jury at the end game; you have to manage the pre-jury too, and that's difficult. As far as the least favorite, I think anytime Stark has a twist where you have to vote with someone else, just because it's a complete headache to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, there were twists early on where I did the voting pairs, and logistically it was just a lot to like make sure, like, I definitely, because Brandy, like, I'll go in and I will try and like help plug and play names with Brandy just to try and make her life easier. Sometimes I make that a little more complicated than I mean to, but then like I will like start plugging in like the numbers, because I have then forgotten about the twist part, we have to vote with your partner. So like my numbers will be wrong. And Brandy has to kind of like reel me back in.
To be fair, I've done that too.
Yeah, so I've tried to kind of limit those, but I honestly I think that my favorite twists are the ones that I've borrowed from other games, because I think that the creative ways that other games have developed and applying those same formats to the injury concept is very interesting. So like pyramid scheme. Pyramid scheme, the whole concept is to stack votes on people that you want out. Well, now you use it in injury, and now you have to stack votes on the person you want to get in so you can see where your loyalties lie. Dina's State Senate game, I think, is a fun twist on the room lock twist that I was using, where I would just randomize like a wheel and break people into rooms. But now, if you add the State Senate twist, you have the either a power determining or like the most recent juror. We call it gerrymandering. I don't remember who came up with that. Somebody told me it was a missed opportunity to not call it gerrymandering.
That totally happened during the season.
Yeah.
The returning season. I remember that.
Yeah. And so now you have a jury member determining like where people are going to be broken up, how that is going to work out, and ideally trying to set themselves up to get an ally in their game. But then now you add a second vote where you have to vote for somebody in your room as well as out of your room. And the person you're voting for outside your room, you're voting blindly, hoping that other rooms kind of vote for that same person. I think the gerrymandering is probably one of my favorite, because I think it's a little more chaotic.
I played that round both as a jury member and where you can actually bounce around, and also seethingly upset because I was right after the big fuck over of Mark in that game. Kidding, I'm not mad anymore. Game's over. But no, it's a really fun twist, and yeah.
I will clue you all in a little bit. I don't know if Stark does it, but during those rounds, I don't actually double check if you're voting for someone in and out of your room.
I do.
Okay.
I try, so I go ahead and like, I think it makes our lives a little more difficult, and this may be a conversation with Brandy to make Brandy's life a little easier. Like I plug and play the numbers into the voting chart. Like I had the voting chart made before the game, and so we plug and play the numbers in the voting chart as they come in. And so when I have a player that breaks people into rooms, I write down those names and then I color code the voting chart. And then when people are voting, I just make sure that they voted within that like same color group. Every once in a while we have like something missed. Like I've definitely had somebody like use a jury vote twice, I think, before, or like a self vote twice. Like every once in a while something happens, but it usually doesn't completely destroy the integrity of the game, but like we do our best.
Yeah. And that's like the important thing. I mean, like, because still this is a game, it's for fun. Also, I see there's a couple of other creators in the chat. I want to shout out Josh Felix, Amnesty, which is a game that is so fucking cool, and I love watching every chance. And of course, Rob from Castaway, the best Survivor game there is, including the CBS version. I'll say that, maybe. But I love it. I want to play that game again. But yeah, I got. So what were you guys? What? I know you have a season coming up this weekend.
So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And also, because he just said it also, Brian Ferrella, Conundrum creator. He creates Conundrums and the game Conundrum. So the season coming up is on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. And tell us a little bit what you can tell us about.
Well, so I've got the game on Saturday, and the original concept was like couples versus singles. And my hope was to have like actual legit like married or dating couples, because I know that with like Valentine's right around the corner, there's going to be a lot of like pair games. And so I was thinking of the like it was actually Katie's idea. I will give Katie the credit. She came up with this concept. But like you always have like the like Valentine's Day couple things happening and then like Singles Awareness Month thing happening, right? So it was kind of a play on like you can play with your number one ally, right? The person you're dating, the person you're married to, whatever, but are both of you going to be successful? Like, how are you going to work that? And then for the singles, it's a completely different strategy. So essentially, you would have 8 people going in playing one way and 8 people going in playing another way, with the strategy being different. And so that was the format. Right now, I've only got 14 people cast, because just with other games that are happening, it's a very active weekend for games, which I totally understand. Like my voting applicant pool was very small, so I essentially was able to cast as many people as I could, because injury works better with an even number of people. So I've got 2 spots open last minute if anybody wants to play.
Are they spots or single spots or?
I've got a couple who is not dating, but they applied as a pair, and I can move them as singles, or they can be a couple as well. So really, either one. I will say that this cast is not as diverse as I want any of my games to be. I will own that as the creator, but I was dealing with the applicants that I got, and I try really hard to not go out of my way to like track people down and put people in a situation where they have to tell me no. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm asking them only because I want them to play to diversify my game, right? Like I want you to play injury because you want to play injury. And obviously I would love to have as diverse a cast as humanly possible, but I don't want to track somebody down and put them in a position where it's uncomfortable, where they have to feel like they have to say no because either they don't want to or for whatever reason, right? So if you're free on Saturday and you want to play, let me know. And if not, we're just going to do a game of 14. But it's going to be a fun game regardless.
I mean, injury is always a good, fun 5 hours or so. Like the jury phase is so insane to figure out, especially like when you're revealing what the pre-jury scores the juror members has, and like it can like inflate someone's game or deflate someone's game, or make them be like, oh, okay, cool, they saw what I'm doing, and I think it's always a fun experience. Like it's not like it's a fun experience.
Yeah, and as Brandy mentioned, like in this game, you really have to manage not only the jury, the people that are voting for you, you have to manage the pre-jury members, because they are going to score you and how deserving they think you are, or how much you deserve to have actually made it into the jury phase, just based on their perception, right? And so those score results will end up breaking ties. Some of them end up being revealed, and then that can help somebody's game. Once again, like I own anything that can kind of negatively impact somebody's game. So in AJ's first game, he got taken out because he had a killer score. Like the entire pre-jury ranked him like very high, and that got exposed. And so everybody was like, "Oh, that's like almost as high as you can possibly get." Because originally it was like you're like first or second or third, and then I changed it to just the numerical value. But then AJ essentially maxed that number out. So now I've changed it to like you're in the like top third of what you could possibly get. So like if you're at a 45, you're in the top third. If you're at a 28, you're in the middle. If you're at a 7, then you're in the bottom third of what you could get. And so I've used that way to kind of correct the AJ effect of being such a great social player, and then being voted out because of it.
And then he won his second game because
And then he won a second game in the one that I changed the format for. Yep.
Yeah, it was like it's just and Katie, who just shot out the whole team, an amazing social player. She gets the final two, and she will eventually win. I'm saying that so it'll eventually happen because I do believe that'll happen. But so, what are your? Do you have like any plans for injury for the future that you can talk about?
So I will say that next month. So this is going to be the only game from February. Next month, I'm going to do a like an international game. So it's going to be in a not Eastern Standard Time zone game. It's going to be more conducive for UK, Australia, like Asia time zone. And it's going to the concept, the format is going to be the same, but there will be a twist. I'm calling it Lockdown. You can take that to mean what you will. But I'm hoping that game will be fun. And then the later half of March, I'm doing the mod takeover. And that one, I'm hoping to have a big applicant pool. Like all my injury games are open to everybody. I usually try and prioritize newer players, but returnees are always welcome to apply. But that one I'm not going to cast. I'm going to let my mods draft from the pool of applicants. And so like that game will be completely out of my hands, and then the mod twist will be implemented throughout the first half of the game. So I'm hoping that both of those games are well received. I tried to schedule them not on a weekend when like 5 other games are happening as well. So hopefully other people will be available to try and take a shot with injury. And then I also have kind of a creative like passion side project for injury that I'm working on. I may be writing a book.
Okay. Go on.
Formatted around injury. So I've got 30 players. I will say a great cast of people. It's a very international cast. Like I created the game of injury. I kind of expanded on it. So now it's a 30-person cast. Worldwide, I've got twins from Brazil. I've got a marine biologist from Sri Lanka. I've got people from the US, Canada, UK, Germany, Iceland. No, nobody from Iceland. Germany, Ireland, Singapore, New Zealand. Like it's a very great group of people. Some of them, or actually most all of them, initially were kind of based on somebody from the community that I know, somebody that I think is a creative character, and then I kind of modified them in age, geographic location, just to kind of make the cast as diverse as it could be.
So I have to ask a very important question then. Who's Brandy in it?
Brandy is a girl named Haley. Haley is from the Philippines. She is a former Marine that walks with a cane, and she is a badass that stands for nobody's nonsense.
I love that you're including the cane.
So it's Brandy, but from the other side of the world.
Yeah. Well, so she is still from the U.S. But it's I had a lot of white women, and so there were some changes. Like I said, I really tried to make like this group like as diverse. I've got 3 Muslims from 3 different parts of the world. I've got and I really tried to include people that maybe aren't necessarily going to be able to play like other games, right? So like Brandy, because of her physical limitations, would never be able to play Survivor. There are certain people who would not feel comfortable playing Big Brother because of the 24-hour like cameras, right? So I just like it. I don't know where this is going. Like right now, it's just like a fun, creative, like passion project. And it's really fun for me to try and kind of think of like, well, what would this person do and how would this person's strategy be going into this round or this game? And I think that I'm probably going to release like the first, like, I've got like 3 chapters done. I think once I get to like chapter 4, I may make them a little more public for consumption, maybe like little like clips just to kind of see what the reaction is. But I I don't think that there's many books out there, if any, that really talk about like a social strategy like game like this, like tells the story of a social strategy game like this. And if there are, I promise that none of them are like this. So, which is kind of ominous.
I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to read it.
It's going to be very fun.
I'm so excited about that. Let's get rid of things wrap up because I know that you have to get to work, Stark, because it's bright early for you there. Let's Brandy, what do you have coming up? Anything exciting? I know that you're on a slight retirement from playing games, but
mostly just doing production for Stark and kind of hanging out. So
nice.
Yeah.
And what about you, Stark? Do you have like anything else exciting that you want to talk about?
No, I mean I'm running Injury. I'm having a lot of fun running the production side of it, like Brandy is. There may be a game in my future. I'm not saying that I'm on a hiatus. I'm not saying that I'm definitely going to be playing a bunch more games. But I'm really enjoying like hosting the occasional game, and especially now that I've really kind of like invested myself into like the writing. Like I'm having a lot of fun writing, which is like still kind of strategic and in its own way, and I'm like pouring myself into that. But yeah, Injury Saturday, and then the 2 games in March. But who knows when I'll pop up.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I love about y'all. You guys are both amazing game players that are really fun allies to play with and fun to watch. And like this game Injury is just so freaking cool. Like holy, like from the get go, like from that first game, I was just like, what's happening here? And then like I'll never forget watching over here just be like, huh? And it's just great watching people play the game. It's really fun. If people haven't played it yet, please play it. Like you can sign up and everything at in the jury _game on Twitter. You can also follow Stark and Brandy at Tunes_Stark and Brandy at BSorrells5. Both of those on Twitter. I'm so happy to have you guys here.
Yeah, thanks for giving us this platform. Like, I think that what you're doing, like shouting out all these games, is amazing.
Thanks. And we're not done yet. I mean, like on Monday, I've got my next one, which is going to be with Nadeem and I believe Andy from Power and Safety. I'm very excited about that. That'll be our regular time. I always like to ask you guys this, and you've been there before, but would you be my Brant Steele this week?
I'm always down for Brant Steels.
Yeah. I don't know if I've been in your Brant Steels. Eddie the Puppet, I probably have. Eddie the Puppet also wants to be in a Brant Steel, though. Just throwing that out there.
And also Marcelo and Mark for third chances. And I promise I won't go after Marcelo. I want to work with Marcelo because Marcelo's a fun ally. Just letting that be known. I mean, anything else I have to plug for myself? Nothing really. Thank you guys so much for being here. This really means a lot to me. And I will see you, the audience, on Friday. Bye.